Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me Amy Day. Hey, Amy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to get into our conversation about decision making because you are an ace at it. You're a star at it, and you have so many great ways of doing it. But just so people know who you are, I'm going to read your short bio.
Sure.
So, Amy Day is a Stanford-certified decision educator, counselor, and advisor with over 20 years of experience teaching whole person decision making. As co-founder and executive director of clarityforaction.org, she helps people access their decision power, the ability to make thoughtful, intentional decisions that align with both their innovative, logical mind and their wise, inspired heart. Amy has devoted her life to translating the science of great decision making and the best from brain research and cognitive psychology into practical tools anyone can use. She serves on the board of the Society of Decision Professionals and is a sought after speaker, advisor, and educator. So, I didn't even know there was a Society of Decision Professionals.
Where nerds get together.
It seems like they have a society for everything.
There is an international society of people all over the world who are obsessed with decision making. Yeah.
That
It's
is
great.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to know how all this started out. So tell us your story.
Yeah. It's so funny you would ask this because after that bio that's so like academic and intellectual, it's like, well, really how it started was I was born in a decision laboratory. And it didn't have like white lab coats and clipboards and gurgling beakers and things like that. It actually was my dad was one of the pioneers in this field called decision analysis at Stanford. And he and his colleagues were solving these big problems for like operations research and development, big corporate problems and how they could look at decisions differently in business to make more money, right? Or to create pharmaceuticals that people really needed and that would have a high rate of success and all of these things. It's all important. But what's funny is the children of these pioneers, it's like what happened at around our kitchen tables, like around my kitchen table, was we had a totally different conversation around decisions. And so I'm what it looks like for all of that intellectual stuff to be integrated into a human being. And so we would ask questions like, well, what decisions did you make to get here? We didn't say, wow, you had this bad thing happen. You must have made a bad decision. That never happened in our household. And we'll get into why. But I think that it took me my lifetime of really unpacking it and going, wait a second, I see the world differently. And so while most of my colleagues at the Society of Decision Professionals are doing high analysis for business decisions, for government decisions, I come in and I'm like, hey, but here's how we talk to people about decision making. And for me, it's like a native language. And it wasn't until I was in a classroom at Stanford and I was like, what? That thing we've been doing all along has a name. It was just like being an English speaker in an English class where you learn that there are subjects and verbs. I was like, wait, I just breathe this. And so that's how I wound up in this field. And like I'm writing a book right now about personal decision making. And it's this idea of like, how can we empower people to like really grab hold of their own decision power? And because that's the only way you can author your life is through your choices. So grab your decision power, but what does it take? And there's just some simple frameworks and tools that make life so much easier that are a translation of what I know, what I learned in the field, but also what I know in my heart about what it is like to be a native speaker.
So many of us have a lot of angst around decision making. There are people who make decisions quickly, but then they quickly regret them. There are people who make decisions slowly, slowly that it's painful, or they just don't make a decision at all, which is a decision because something is still going to happen. So let's just start out with the basics of decision making. How do
Yeah.
we make decisions without so much anxiety around it?
Well, I think part of the reason that we feel anxiety about decisions, or we can, is because the definition of decision making is to cut off. So you're literally saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to cut off all these things. And that can create anxiety. Um, what I've found is that when there's a decision that impacts other people, say our children or our partner or our parents, or so it's outside of just ourselves, it puts additional stress and pressure on our decision making. Same with our teams, right? If they say, I want you to downsize, I want you to make this change to your team. It's the same at work and at home because we're there. It's personal because we're there,
Mhm.
right? So I think that to recognize that it's normal to feel stress for some people about cutting things off. And the best decision definition that I love, because there are two, the second one is asking a great question. You ask a question to solve. And that seems expansive to me, right? So the cutting off, but that's what we feel. So you kind of hinted to this idea that we have people on a continuum. And what I see in my work and decision making is there are two extremes to this continuum, which you described perfectly. The people who are like, I just want to move into action. I want this off my plate. I want to check it off. I'm going to take action. And they're like, wait, that didn't work out, right? They didn't slow down enough to recognize what they wanted, right? They're like, just get it off the list. I want to move into action. It's more comfortable. They're more comfortable cutting things off, so it's easier, right? Then there's the other side, and I live over here, where it's like, wait, but there's like five different futures that I've lived in my mind and my imagination about how cool it would be because I'm just open to the possibility of inquiry, right? Of exploration. So it can feel like dysfunction. Both of these can feel like dysfunction, but actually they're great gifts. The people are over here who are really decisive, like that we think are like I think sometimes like, oh my gosh, they're so magical. They just make decisions and go do it and they don't have an extra thought. Yeah, they need us. They need this other side to slow them down and to open up to what's possible and what do they want and what are creative ways to get there. So when you pair these two together, you end up with more effective, more balanced decision making, right? What we're seeking is a balance. Same the other way, right? If somebody's just open to possibility, like creative goo, they can just wait forever or never take action. So the way to support them is say, okay, let's draw this to a conclusion. You've considered all these things. What options get us more of what we want? And let's move into action. So we have inquiry and we have action. Guess what? In a decision, there's a phase that's inquiry and there's a phase that's action. We need both in our decision making to make it powerful. So I invite everybody to think, wait, if I'm feeling anxious about like, because I'm in too many swirls of too many thoughts about what's possible, or if I'm like, it didn't work out, it was a ready, fire, aim situation. Right? Like, oh no. Um, in either of these cases, a great cure is to set a timer. So, setting a timer, whether you're talking to somebody about where to have dinner and you get bogged down or decide too quickly, right? Either or, set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes and say to the person who's in possibility, what could we do after the ding? It's like, okay, what are we going to do?
Uh-huh.
For the person who's decisive, it forces them to keep things open, long enough to consider more than two options. Or just the one that was the first to come to mind, right? I'm married to this person, right? He's amazing at what he gets done. But there are times when he's like, there's more than one option. Yeah, there's a lot of options actually. So setting a timer for both. If it's buying a house, maybe it's a 6-month timer, but you're setting a timer to allow this person to use their genius to be in curiosity and possibility, but then forcing them to closure. And then the person over here is decisive. You're forcing them to keep it open, to consider what's possible, what they want, how they could get there so that they can juice more out of their decision. Time is our most limited resource. So if we can be juicing our decisions for all that we want, right? There's always trade-offs, always going to be trade-offs. But how can we get more of what we want effectively? And that's where my work lives, right?
That makes sense because sometimes when you're making a decision, you just want it all. I don't want to choose because I want all of it. It's like holding up five lollipops for a kid.
Yeah.
They don't want
Yeah.
to pick one. They want all the lollipops. But in life, most of the time you don't get to keep all of them. You have to choose.
Yeah, and I think it when we step back into that and say there are five lollipops, you can sometimes ask yourself this question of like, ooh, I really like the green lollipop, and I like this little bit of that cherry one, and then I want some of the yellow one, right? So you've got these different lollipops. Then you get into visioning and imagining how you could integrate them into your best decision. Our brains are wired to conserve energy every day. That's why you have habits. Hello, brain. You're born into it. You have habits so that your life is automated. So you spend less energy making decisions. Your brain's job is to save energy. And it's even saving energy when it's like you hear a noise and you're startled and you're like, "Ah, I better run." It's trying to keep you alive. Right? Thank you, brain. But it's also this great capacity to slow down and say, wait, if I really imagined, how could I combine these three in a way that's my way,
Mm.
my great way of getting there? I mean, I think I'm speaking into your work now also is this idea of like, how do I create my vision, my way of doing it? Just because somebody says this is the answer, is it my answer? Right? There's a lot more answers than two. Our brains want to go to two. They want a yes, no, right, wrong. I can do A or B. That's what our brains want. Simplified, simplified. So in envisioning a different future, in imagining, you actually bust out of that it's actually a bias. We call it the either or bias, either or. So like one or the other. There are plenty of ways to get there, right? And that's just two of them.
That's true. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking of when you visualize, a lot of times it is easier if you can if it's a physical thing, of course, a physical thing, but if you can just lay everything out on the table
Mm.
and then take a look at everything instead of, like you said, A or B, because so many times here's this pile of A and a pile of B, but really you could organize it however you like.
We call that a frame, actually. So what you're doing literally, if you're in an either or, it's like you're in this frame that's a bubble, like this tiny bubble, and you're actually solving a problem with A or B. You're saying, I have a problem and I can solve it with A or B. But if you back up and reframe your problem and say, wait a second, what do I want? What do I want? Then you start to ask a better decision question. So I'm going to give a very simple answer, illustration that we all were probably in high school at some point, and we're like, people are saying, "Are you going to college or are you going to get a job?" Okay.
Mhm.
Society is set up to give us two options, just telling you. And we go, oh, I don't know. Which of these two do I want? The better question is to say, what do I want to do for the next year or 4 years that is inspiring?
Mhm.
And maybe you're like, I've been volunteering for all this time at the neighborhood youth center, and I actually want to go work for Volunteers of America for X amount for a year. And then I want to go to college. Like there's a million ideas that are out there, but notice when you back up and you frame it differently, say, what is going to create an inspiring life, right? That that is where you get a lot of richness and you get buy-in from yourself. Otherwise, you're just checking the box. Like we have limited time on this planet. So instead of just checking the box, go, what's inspiring? Now, I'm not suggesting people should reject going to college or reject getting a job, but there's way more than two answers. So instead of solving your problem with the solutions, solve it from the question, right? That's the definition of a decision is asking a good, curious question.
Mhm.
Ask a question. And and I think this also leads to the two different kinds of decisions. So if I'm asking this college, like what's enriching, what could be out there, that's an exploring decision. So I'm going to spend time and inquiry exploring it. And in the end, I might say, you know what? I'm going to apply for Volunteers of America. And I wonder, okay, I want to apply to colleges too. What colleges? Then you're moving into a concrete decision. What colleges am I going to apply to? In the end, you're going to maybe have a list. You're going to have a sense of who you are. You're going to have a list. There's a whole decision process that's simple to figure out what's going to fit you, right? So then you have the list. It's a concrete decision. You apply to the colleges or you buy the car or you buy the house, right? That's very concrete.
Mhm.
Exploring decisions oftentimes move into concrete decisions, but honor the process for what it is. Envisioning, you're imagining. You're imagining, you're exploring a potential future and you're applying decision process like, does that fit me? What would fit me? What makes sense with my life? And then you're moving to maybe a concrete decision as a leader, as a team member, whatever you're working in.
I know, especially in companies or businesses, so many decisions are just based on numbers or outcomes or, you know, how is it going to move us forward? But it doesn't take into any consideration the people who are working in the company or sometimes even the customers. So
No,
how do we make decisions that are authentic to ourselves and even if it's a company to the mission of the company?
right. Well, I have two answers for that. Um, and and maybe I'll just start with the first. And so just let me just give you a little background about my framework that I use. Okay. Because this helps to start honing in on you meaning the listener is the decision maker, right? And I know in show notes there's a download to a decision clarity blueprint, and that's exactly what I'm gonna walk through. So if you need to pause it and go download it, that's fine. But it if you're watching this, it looks like this. It's 4 steps on a handout. And what I want you to do is put your oxygen mask on first. So before we think about the company, before we think about our family, before we think about the people we're interacting with, we need to think about ourselves. And as the aircraft flight attendants say, put your oxygen mask on before helping somebody else. So this is that. This is really getting connected to how you make your best decision because it helps you inform other people in making their best decision or a collective decision. So the first question, there's 4 questions, and we call it the VITA method. I lived in Costa Rica as an exchange student in high school. I lived in Spain as a college. It was a happy accident that it spelled life in Spanish. I was like, huh, who knew? But at the core, at the center, like over your heart, is this idea of values, which is the V of Vita. Okay. And values is this umbrella idea of what are my values, like my core values. Now they can change over your lifetime, and you'll see some that are threads throughout your lifetime and other ones that maybe change depending on where you are in your life at the time. But your core values are your driver. If you hit resistance, struggle, fear, any of those things, tap back into your values and how this decision supports your values, which is how you show up in the world, right? So it's values, it's also your vision. So if values is why, your vision is where, right? I could, I live near Seattle. I could put a boat in the water and I could end up in Hawaii. I could end up in Alaska. Right? It depends on where my boat is pointed. So vision's essential because it tells you where you want to go, right? What decisions might be along the way that create your inspired life. And the third one is, what are your strengths? Now, those are strengths like you would find maybe in assessments like Clifton Strengths Finder, right? Things that are like concrete strengths that, have assessments. There's also this idea, this continuum of like, are you somebody who's in inquiry or in action, right? What's your strength? Bring your strength, partner. Partner with other people who have the opposite strength. You don't need to develop that strength. You can partner with them. The other great thing is to use your imagination and like literally put their hat on and say, what would Dr. Kimberly say? It's amazing what we're capable of in our imagination and how the brain works in creating different solutions. It takes the pressure off us and we say, oh, well, she might say this. It's a spark of more innovation and more ideas. So when we talk about strengths, bring you. Um, I'm tired of all the things that say get better at fill in the blank. No, no, no. Just get better at you. That would be my best advice. Get better at you. Somebody needs you to balance them out, right? On your team, in your family, in your community, doesn't matter where, they need you. So be you. So that first innermost circle of values, ask yourself the question, who am I? Who am I? And own it. Who am I? And then answer those questions like, what do I want? Right? That's about where you're going. What do I want? Where am I going? Ask this big question of who am I? The next circle out that you're going to reflect on is the Vita letter I, which is my internal operating system. So it's the biology you were born into. Some of it is unique and some of it is just universal. How the brain typically works is pretty universal. So this idea of feeling like you have two options, that's built into our brains. The idea that, but wait, I've invested so much time or money into something, I got to keep doing it. Maybe it's a lemon of a car. It doesn't have to be, whatever. It could just be your car. Like I keep pouring money into a lemon and time and energy and stress. Would you buy the car today? Right? Not to say get rid of your car or your friendship or your job or whatever, but it's provocative to ask yourself some other questions about, would I buy it today? Huh. No, I might not. Not just because it's a lemon, but these things I don't like about it. I want this. It starts to get you connected to what you do want. But so that's called sunk cost. Either or. I'm going to give you three biases. And the third one is confirmation bias. Our brains are wired I hate to tell you this. Our brains are wired to see the things that confirm what we already believe. So we ignore the things that are contrary.
Mhm.
And our search engines, and now AI times 100,
Mhm.
is serving up what it thinks we want. So your search engine is so nice because it learns you. It learns what you want. Same with AI. It learns what you want. Isn't it nice?
Mhm.
Yeah, except for you might actually end up way off center thinking that is the center. That's what it does. It'll pull you, it doesn't tell you center. You put in a search, say I'm writing a paper on a very controversial subject that I'm a student, say, on the Second Amendment. Ugh, gun rights versus gun control, like hot topic, right? I could literally open a search engine, search for it, get an answer, click on something that said gun rights, read about that, maybe another one, and then close it up, go to dinner, come back, re-enter the search. And instead of the search being here, it's here. It gives me more of what it thinks I want, even though I have to write a paper arguing both sides. So AI is worse. They've studied this at Microsoft Research. This is highly studied how we're being controlled by our search engines. What about algorithms on social media? Same thing. It gives you what you think you want, not what's going to give you a balanced view. So always look for the opposite. Ask your search engine, what would somebody look for who's not me? Right? What would the opposite side say? Do DuckDuckGo or private browsing? Those don't consider your preferences. So I know somebody who had to actually go to the library and get a book. They're like, I can't find anything. I'm trying to find research. They had to go to a university library to get the research because they could not get it through a search engine. So those are just big hazards for our brains. But it's also, so not if that's not enough, are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired? How am I is the question you're asking. So am I being tricked by my brain and these biases? It's not your fault. They exist. It's fine. It's because your brain is brilliant that they exist. They're bugs in the system of how you can possibly process all the information that you need to take in one day, in 1 second, in a minute, right? It's just a bug in the system. But be aware of it, and then you can do something about it. There's this whole other gooey inside part about feelings. So, am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired in this moment? Maybe my first decision is to get a snack. It's not actually to decide. I'm or I'm hangry, maybe. Don't press send on the email. Go get a snack, rest, regulate, right?
Mhm.
So that you're in your best mind. The third area in like how am I is to think about these values. And I bet you see this in your work where you people have values and really the flip side, it's like a playing card and that's one side is a value, but the opposite side is a need.
Mhm.
So if I value community, which I do,
Mhm.
I also need community,
Mhm.
right? So when we think about values and needs and we have feelings that come up, maybe we're feeling prickly or frustrated with a team, frustrated with somebody in our family or friends. We're feeling prickly or like this plan isn't going to work for me. Values and needs don't come into conflict, right? These feelings are telling us something's not working about this situation.
Mhm.
Listen to them. It's the strategies we're using to meet the need. So let me give you an example. I was on a New York subway with my husband, and I have a value of like honoring other people being a good guest, um, of peace and harmony, right? And my husband and I are standing there, and he's standing in front of a door, and over his head, it's like a door at the end of the train, not a door that opens out. And it says, please do not lean on this door, train crew rest area. And I said, hey, over your head, it says, please do not lean on this door. And you can't see it, right? He's like, oh, okay. So he stops kind of leaning on it. But then he just keeps banging against it. Like the car lurches and he bangs again. I'm stressing out. This is actually my problem, not his.
Mm-hmm.
Just to be super clear. It'd be really easy to say he doesn't listen. He doesn't care. He doesn't this. Notice it's just all about him. But when I turned it around and said, wait, what about this strategy? I have values. He has values and needs too. Um, it's not that he's wanting to be rude. He's like, I don't think anybody's in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's being reasonable. I was like, huh, I could deploy a different strategy. Hey, do you mind? Could we switch? You could stand where I'm standing and I'll stand where you're standing, and then I won't worry about that door. He's like, sure. I didn't worry for the whole rest of the time. I was like, I'm being a good guest. I'm not banging on the door. I'm listening to the sign because I want to have peace and harmony, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his needs are met too. He's not made into a bad guy. I was like, I have a problem. This strategy doesn't work. How can I flip it to have a different strategy? Same goes with teams.
Oh, that makes sense because especially when you have more than one person, when you have a group of people, there's different needs and different wants and different ideas of how things should be done.
Right. So to have conversations about values, why does this project matter to you? Like, understand that from your team. It doesn't, somebody might have a value of like, I want to make more money. That's values are like they're like amoral, they're like neutral. Values are neutral, they just are. And they may, the thing about a value is it doesn't matter what the label is. They may want to make more money because I mean, I have a friend whose mom lives in Poland and she doesn't get very much Social Security. They want to make more money so they can send more money to their mom in Poland. We don't bother to notice the because.
Mhm.
The because is the most important statement about a value. The label, Amy cares about community. Like the label doesn't matter as much as what I say, why it matters. So the two of us could have a value of community. And what, like I could be like community, that's about, education and support and love. And for you, community could be about um, um, team building and having fun together, right? Same label, different definitions. You can also have different definitions. I mean, different labels, same definition. So really get to like, what is it about this project you care about? Oh, I want to make money. Well, that's awesome. Like, what does that look like for you? Is there a because? Um, to get people to connect to what their because is going to help them power up. It's going to give you insight as a leader too to say, I know what drives this person is this value. How can I connect them to that value when they get bogged down? It's like a giant tug of war rope
Mhm.
pulling from the future, right? The future vision, it pulls you through resistance. So to get your team connected to why it matters, and as a leader to say, I remember you talked about you care about this project because you want to cure this form of cancer. Like, like what you want people to be healthier, whatever the company is, it doesn't matter. I want their software to be more intuitive. It doesn't matter. But but to connect them to what matters to them
Mhm.
means they get to show up in their work. Like, do you feel like it's meeting this need? How could this meet this value and this need for you? Right? How can we work together, collaborate so that people get more of their needs met on the work team. And that the project is an expression of that. That's where you get excellence. Because then people come to work and they're like, heck yeah. I'm like, I know I'm just programming this thing to do this little widget, but you know what? It's going to make people's lives easier. It's going to save them time. And they're going to be like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes a difference in your work because you go to work happy, you come home happy, feeling accomplished.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So that was very long. The how am I is so rich because I think we spend a lot of time in society blaming ourselves, blaming other people in a state of blame or shame or guilt or whatever about how we're feeling or about what's going on. And it's really nobody slowed down enough to say, look, you were born into an operating system and it's not your fault, but you can do something about it. So I know hungry, angry, lonely, tired spells halt. It comes from AA. I added an S for stressed if I'm stressed out.
Mhm.
Usually it means I'm going back to hungry. Um, I know hungry is my thing.
Mhm.
So when I have a big decision to make, I eat a snack first. It's a way I can move from being reactive to being proactive.
Mhm.
It's fine. I forget to eat. It's okay. But I've built in a system, a habit easier on my brain, a habit to do that, to have a snack before I make a big decision and
Yeah.
to pause and to pause. People feel like they have to make it right now. And it's like, I can tell the person I can't decide for 24 hours. I'm like, yeah, I know you want me to decide right now about donating to X fund, even for my college. Can I let you know in 24 hours? Take the pressure off.
Yeah. I think we all need to do that. There is a lot of pressure to like make a decision right away. And I know I was even trained in, sales, and the pressure for the salesperson is to get the person on the other side to make a decision right away. And
Yep.
when they don't, the salesperson feels like they failed,
Yeah.
you know. But
My best sale is when I say, and take 24 hours. Like, you need to pause. If I teach this, I better well let people pause and think about it and go, I need this. Or, I need, like, I want a heck yeah.
mhm,
Like, you want to work with me? Heck yeah. Great. That, to me, that's of service. Those are the best yeses, right? Because the person's in. They're all in, which is great. So we've done who am I, how am I, right? These two circles.
mhm,
The next one is the decision process from decision analysis. It's it's the D of Vita is decision.
mhm,
And it's where in this inquiry, right? Remember, exploring decision or concrete decision, I'm in inquiry.
mhm,
At the end of this process, I'm going to integrate my great thinking and my wise heart.
mhm,
Don't cut one off for the other. Integrate, integrate. Ask great questions to your head, ask great questions to your heart. I have great questions
mhm,
for you on this handout. It's like integrate. And then in the end, what you're going to say is, I've decided to fill in the blank
mhm,
by whatever the date is. You're the decision maker. You get to decide what it is you're deciding by when, and then you start taking action. And maybe as you're implementing the decision, you're like, oh, I didn't think about how I need to do XYZ. It might take 2 weeks longer. Okay, you're the decision maker. You get to decide how much time. If you find out information that says you're inappropriately tightening the schedule, give yourself time to think it through. And the opposite is true. You're like going through it and you're like, I feel like I should tighten up the schedule.
mhm,
Then move your deadline forward and say, nope, I'm going to do it 2 weeks earlier because I can, right? It's about acquiring information and understanding the problem the best way we can and filtering it through who am I? How am I? So you could think about what could I? right? Simple. And there's a simple framework for it. And it's in decision science. It's like everybody should know, have access to this and know this. And yet nobody's taught it. We're all taught critical thinking. That's how you make a good decision. I'm here to tell you that is a way to make a great decision. But if it doesn't line up with who you are and what you care about, and maybe you don't need that much critical thinking, maybe it's not that kind of decision, right?
Hmm.
At the time it's due and the process it's due. You don't want to waste your life energy over analyzing. So analyze until you have clarity and then move forward in action, which is the fourth step.
Hmm.
So that's the A of Vita. Action is how will I? How will I, based on my vision, based on my strengths, based on like who can support me? What helps me when I get stuck? What helps you is to go back to why you're doing it, your values, and remind yourself. We forget, why am I doing this? Oh, I want to be of service. That's why I'm doing this, right? So go back there. It'll help you pull you through. The other advice, if you cannot take action. So you either miss something you care about, right? One of those values.
Hmm.
The other is you solved the wrong problem. That's a reframe of your problem. So I will give you an example of a reframe from a 15-year-old who is trying to figure out how to get to school on his own before Uber and all of those things 25 miles from his school. And he wanted to spend more time with his dad. His question was, how do I take the bus to school? Couldn't look up a bus schedule. Like everything was a roadblock. Everything was a roadblock. I backed up. I said, why do you want to do this? I want to spend more time with my dad. Like he was hybrid homeschooled, right? And I was like, okay, you want to spend more time with your dad before classes at 1. Great. How about we solve how can you spend more time with your dad? Then he's like, wait, my dad's in a carpool and he works swing shifts. That's why he wanted to spend more time with him because he didn't go to work till 2. That kid got a ride from his dad's carpool to school every day. He was like, and he was inspired. He's like, I got it. He called his dad, Dad, I need to solve this. Can you ask the carpool? The carpool, like one guy was crying. He's like, your son wants to spend time with you so badly that he wants to know if the carpool will drop him at school on the way. Heck yeah, right? It enrolled people. It was a slight shift. Solving the bus problem is what we called it,
Hmm.
to solving how do I spend more time with dad? It was a slightly different decision question. So if you're uninspired by your decision, ask a different decision question. It can be just the slightest tweak, and you're suddenly like, oh, wait, I know what I'm solving for now. And you'll see it. I see it happen over and over. All of a sudden, they lean forward and they go, oh, I could do this. And I'm like, you could do that. And I'm here to cheer you on, right?
That's awesome. That's such a wonderful framework. And like you said, there is in the show notes a place where people can actually print that out so they
Yep.
can look at it and actually do it.
Yeah, yeah. Just walk through it. I ask, they're prompting, there's space to write, there's prompting questions. It's really easy. It's really easy. And I think my goal is to just to have you trust, you as the listener, trust that you can start exactly where you are, that you're fine who you are and where you are is exactly where you should be. And you can take a step forward. You can do some simple things to make your life easier and just start to practice them. It's like little weightlifting. Like,
Hmm.
I can lift 2 pounds. Okay, lift 2 pounds
Hmm.
and do some reps with 2 pounds and then add a pound. Like we have this idea that somehow we have to go from here and leap forward. And that's what commercials sell us. That's what social media sells us. That's what every we don't see commercials for Nike with some person who feels like a loser lacing up their shoes and going, all I have in me is to walk around the block again.
Mhm.
Right? Me before. No, we see somebody running across the rim of the Grand Canyon and they've like just run the race and they're breaking through the like they're the winner of the whole race. Just be the winner of your race. That's what I would say. My advertisement would be win your race. And if it means I'm putting my shoes on and walking around the driveway, then walk around the driveway. But our we can do that with our minds. We can practice making great decisions and slowly build skills. That's why I have nonprofit. It's like we all deserve to have access to this information. And it gets to be easier and it gets to be affordable and it gets to be manageable. So just do identify one thing that you could do that would help you, even if it's notice when I say, is it A or B or yes or no? And say, oh, wait, that's my cue. That's my cue to ask a bigger, better question about what I want, right? Ask the bigger question. You're reframing from two to actually a big question where you could get a lot of richness in your life. If you just did that one thing and you supported your family and your teams, everybody you come into contact with in your community, you'd be amazed at what would happen. Suddenly people would be like, oh, wait, I could do this. You see the light, you literally like go, tick, the light bulb goes on over their head. You're like, yeah, good, right? And then you can take on more. But just start. Just start.
Wow, that was a lot of learning right there.
Sorry. I did say I was a nerd at the beginning, right?
Well, very helpful, but so much to think about. My brain's going, oh, it's just going around and around. But I do have a question because
Yeah.
this question actually came from a conversation I had with someone today. So
Oh,
today
yeah.
I met someone new and she works with parents.
Mhm.
She works with parents on parenting.
Yep.
And we were talking about the fact that moms have to make these decisions and they feel pulled because of the people in their space. So they're at work and their boss wants them to stay late to finish this project, but they have to leave early to pick up their daughter or son at childcare.
Mhm.
And then their kids want them at home, but they have to go to work. They're afraid not to go to work because they could lose money. They could not have money to take care of their children. Their husband wants more of their time, but they're
Right.
taking care of the kids and they're working. So they're making these decisions really under duress, not being able to please anyone in their life, including themselves. So, what do you do in those situations where you're pulled in all different directions?
So what I would say, I'm a parent of three kids. They're adults, but that you never stop being a parent. It's just anybody who thinks they're going to grow out of being a parent, nope. Um, and I have a husband and like we have a life and parents who are aging, like there's all these pulls on our life, right? So the more that you can actually back up and if you see this pattern showing up where you feel pulled, to be able to back up yourself and say, what's really important to me? It's because their own values are coming into conflict. The value to be a great parent, right? To love their family, their value to be a good worker. They have maybe high integrity is a value for them, so they want to show up in integrity with their work as a team member. So, and they feel this security. Security is there too, right?
Mhm,
Like the need to be able to get a paycheck. That's security and stability for your family. All of those are in service of your family,
mhm,
right? And so to really recognize what values are at play for a person, and then even sitting down, if it say it's the working late, picking up kids tension, inviting your boss to say, if your boss is approachable, okay, inviting your boss to say, I have this problem, and that is I value this about my family. I value this about my work. Can you help me solve how can I meet these work needs and still be able to pick up my kids from school? How can I? Right? It's not will you let me? It's how can we work on this problem because I my job is really important to me and I value our relationship as my boss, right? I value our relationship and I want to show up in this the highest integrity. You don't know what your boss might say. They might say, you know, okay, you need to pick up your kids. Maybe there's something that you can be holding aside. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to get up at 6 in the morning on Saturday and I'm going to work for 2 hours to be able to meet this need, but it means I can leave early, right? There's all kinds of, you see what's happening? There's a lot of solutions in there. That pull is going to exist. Everybody's going to want more of you. So, as a mom, the question is, how can I show up with the most presence and richness in the places I need to show up and really show my kids that I love them and that I'm there for them and that there are moments when I can't be with them, but that I still deeply care for them. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Um, but that's how it's a strategy problem. Notice it's that
Hmm.
values, needs, flipping the card, and then the strategies. So, what other strategies are there for accomplishing these things? Maybe it's having date night with her husband. You're going to get 100% of my attention. This is like chaos time in our lives. Once a week, we're going to turn off our phones. We're going to get a sitter and we're going to go out on a date. And if you don't have the money, you're like, kids, we're having our weekly picnic. You come if anybody's injured. Otherwise, we're going to be outside of the picnic table. I don't care. Like, you can create things wherever you can create them, right? But, but I know that like my husband's family, his parents would just be like, they'd have dinner together. The kids would clear their dish and they would get to go play and do anything they wanted to. So that was like free play.
Hmm.
Like, you could even have special toys for free play and the parents had time together, right? It's about being intentional. What strategies are going to support nurturing relationships and showing up for our work with integrity, right? I don't know if that helps you, but
Yeah,
that's
that's
how,
nice. That does help because, like I said, we were having that discussion
yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah. But it's really a values, needs, strategy question, right?
Hmm.
And to imagine imagine a family where you actually talk to your kids about this. Like, what needs do you have? What needs do you have? These are the needs I have. How can we meet your needs? You might have one kid who wants time from you. You might have another kid who's just like, I just love going shopping with you. Anytime you go out, I just want to be in the cart or what. I'm like, okay, come to the store with me. Like, that's meeting a need for them.
Hmm.
I don't know what their needs are, but to start to get people to express what their needs are and creatively think about strategies to meet them, you're equipping your kids with amazing skills.
Yeah. And there was something you put in your notes that stuck out to me. FOMO, fear of missing out. So sometimes we don't want to make a decision because we want to have both, but there might be some things about this we really don't want. Something about this we don't want, and we want parts of things. We want this, but we don't want this. I want to spend time with you, but not all the time. I want
Yeah.
my alone time, but I
Yeah.
don't always want to be alone. How do we work on that, not feel like we're not missing out on things?
So I think that FOMO comes in various forms. So part of what we talked about already, like about parenting, getting connected to what matters is really helpful. there's a part of FOMO that you also talked about with sales. Like, ugh. I have this fear of missing out, and there feels like an urgency. And sometimes what we can do is actually insert a pause. And what I love about the idea of doing visioning work, like having a vision for kind of generally where you want to go, right? That you might meander some, but you like, I can kind of see something out there. And when the fog bank comes in, which is FOMO, like the fog bank comes in, you're like, I can't see where I want to go anymore. It's so tempting. It sometimes it's helpful to ask, does like pause, just take some of the urgency out of it. Like, wait, I don't have to decide right now. They're asking me about, a class in 3 weeks. I don't have to decide this instant. I don't have to decide this instant. And and the other piece is to say that person who I'm becoming, who's aligned with these values, and I'm in this season of my life, right? I'm in this season of my life. What would they pick? What would they say? Good job, right? I know there were times I had FOMO. I'm like, oh, I'd really love to go to that concert, but I don't have anybody to watch my kids. I lived at the time far away from any family. I like literally had nobody to watch my kids. I'm like, I can't last minute it. And this is the season I'm in, and I'm going to do something fun with my kids tonight, and that's it. So honor the season you're in and the values you have right now because they're going to shift. Some are going to shift over time, some are going to stay the same. But to honor that person you're becoming as an antidote to FOMO and pause, pause, just pause. There's very little that's that urgent, very little that's that urgent. That, and I know it's like, I think as a parent, you long to have this bigger life. And as a mom, there's so many other people's needs that come before yours. And so how can you create balance in that space and know that more of your time is coming as your kids get older? I can attest to that. And there are bumps along the way. And just be kind to the person that you were when you made the decisions. That would be the other. Be kind to her or him or them. Like, be kind because they did the best job they could. And maybe you know more today. Great. You learned something. That's what it like that cycle of reflecting and learning. That's the human experience. It's okay. We don't have to like hit ourselves over the head with a frying pan. Uh, and if you think that I'm immune to that, I'm not. I'm like, put that frying pan down. Like, Amy, don't do that. That's crazy. Like, stop it. Back away. Um, yeah, I'm not immune. I'm not immune to the complexity of life or feeling like life, like I have huge struggles or hard decisions. I'm not immune. I just have a way to deal with it that is adds ease and flow to my life and saves me time and fretting and the and regret. I don't have regrets. The past is a canceled check for those who are old enough to have written a check. The past is a canceled check. You can see where you wrote it, how much it was for. You maybe wrote something in the memo. What was the date? All the things about that check. It's been cashed. The value of that check is to learn from it and not as a beat up, as like, how would I do it differently next time? Or how would I do it the same next time? Which makes me have to say this. We live in an outcome culture. We live in an outcome culture which says if you do well on the project, you get a bonus or a promotion. If you do well on the test, you get an A, means you're a good student. The A means you're a good student. There's all these outcomes that we evaluate. I had a fender bender. I must be a bad driver. Like a million. Think of anything. We evaluate by outcomes. Here's the problem. This is a lie. Outcomes are just the results, right? And we think it means if it's a good outcome, made a good decision. Bad outcome, made a bad decision, right? Super clear. Lie. It's it's not. So we make a decision, okay? Decision's over here. And what happens is that decision passes through luck. Decision science calls that uncertainty. I can tell you the chance of rain this afternoon. And say I'm going to go for a walk in downtown Seattle. I can tell you the chance of rain. Like it's an 80% chance of rain. Great. That's something I can't know until it's 4:30 in the afternoon and I'm walking and it's raining or not raining. Okay? That's uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen. It passes through uncertainty, luck, or good luck, bad luck, and you get an outcome. The only way to evaluate whether it was a good or bad decision is by looking at the decision. Okay? So next time you're faced with a decision, I'm an archer. I know, crazy. I'm an archer. I love it. And archery is the best example of this. I can position the target. I stand in the right position. I breathe. Put the arrow in the knock point. I pull, I draw the bow. I do all of the things. I get all centered. I aim, the whole thing. That's all my decision. All of that stuff is decision. I release the arrow. Now it's uncertain. Okay. The wind could gust slightly. And my arrow might get less like off target. It actually could get more on target. We think of uncertainty as bad. It's actually, there's an upside to it also. Our brains are wired for survival, so it's always going to see the bad first. So the wind could come along. A leaf could flutter off the tree and knock the arrow. An eagle could swoop down, very unlikely. I've never heard of this, but it could happen. An eagle could swoop down, grab the arrow out of the air, and fly off. I'm sure they have the skill because they can grab birds out of the air. Why couldn't they get my arrow, right? There's all kinds of things that can happen. And then it either hits the target or is kind of on target or completely ends up in the grass. And I have to go find the arrow in the grass. Um, all these things can happen, but we blame ourselves for the outcome. So the next time you have a good or bad outcome, say, how was the decision? So your kid comes home with a D on a test. Wow. How what do you think happened? I saw you studying. What do you think happened? Well, I saw you studying every night, actually. I saw, do you feel like you had good study habits? Do you feel like it could be good or bad, making good or bad choices, right? About time use. It could be that student, this has happened to me before in school. The professor tested on something that was never lectured on and not in any book we read. And everybody got a D or an F. Um, so until you unpack it and you point back and say, there are powers in your decision making, how could you do it differently next time? I studied the wrong things. I could go talk to the teacher and find out how I could better take better notes to know what was going to be on the test. Great. Like you're talking to an expert. Go talk to your teacher. They're an expert, right? But you have no power if you're only looking at outcomes. All your power is in the decision, every last ounce of it. And then congratulations, or I'm sorry, it passes through uncertainty and all bets are off, right?
That's profound. Thank you so much. So I know there's people that would like to work with you. How do we connect with you? Where do we find you? What services do you have available?
Yeah, yeah. So if you get my download, which is in the show notes, you will be on my email list and I can communicate with you. I send out decision wins emails to just help people hone their decision skills one little baby step at a time. Um, I have a connect page. You can schedule a call with me. If you're stuck on a decision, just call, schedule a free call. And if you're wanting to know how to work with me, that's a great way to start. I teach classes, I do one-on-one coaching, I do master classes, I do all kinds of things. So it's really easy to get a hold of me. My email is Amy, AMY, at clarity, CLAIR, CLARITY, then the number four, action.org. You can email me. But clarityforaction.org has all these things laid out where you can just click through and find me. We're here to serve you and helping you make your next great decision. Follow me on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter post there, and I'm just so grateful for this opportunity to serve your community. This is very generous of you, Kimberly, to just um, take the time and put all this effort into creating a great podcast to really serve people and living the life joyfully
Mhm.
that they've been called to live. And um, visioning is such an important, big, big step to go from fog bank to clear blue sky. So I'm just grateful to be here and to be able to serve.
Thank you. So now I have a personal question.
Yes.
What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
I know I answered that question. I'm trying to think how I answered it. Um, Gosh, right now, I think there's so many things that give me happiness and joy. I think being really present. I have a cat, I have chickens, I have a garden, just really being present to my life and to my family. My family's growing. I'm at that phase of life of
Mhm.
where people are getting married, engaged, things like that. I just feel really joyful to be here and to be breathing on this planet. And it gives me so much joy actually to just sit and write my book because I know the world needs it. And I just feel like it's so connected to my deep value of loving the world by giving them the best that I can give them in making their great life. So thank you for asking that question. I'm so curious. What gives you joy right now?
Gives me joy right now.
Yeah.
It's really just, the people around me.
Hmm.
I love connecting with people and getting to know them, and the podcast gives me that
Hmm.
ability to do that.
Yeah. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a great gift. Thank you.
Yeah. So I appreciate you coming on and all your like profound teaching.
Yeah. I know it's a lot. It's like fire hose. Thank God they can pause. I do. I was going to say, I do have YouTube videos also. Clarity for Action. It's in the show notes. But
Mhm.
I do have YouTube videos about the reframe or about, just different little pieces that are connected to my decision wins that are just like pieces just to give little insight so people can see, so it's not just a auditory experience, but yeah, I have all kinds of resources. So I'm just so happy to be here and happy to serve.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I have one
Thank
last
you.
question. Here's the
Yeah.
last big question.
Yeah. Fire away.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Be you. Yeah. Just get to know you and be the best calling for you, the best version of you. Um, when people get to know you, they know you, not a pretend version of you, right? I would say that's my very best advice. That's been the best advice for me in my lifetime is just, I think throughout our lives, we know ourselves better and better. And that's been the greatest gift is to actually go, wait, who am I? What do I care about? What's important to me? How can I collaborate with the people I love around me to create really meaningful family and community experience? And just to be the puzzle piece that is Amy. So I encourage you to just be the puzzle piece that is you in the world because we need you. We all have strengths, and you have strengths people need. And that's how we're going to solve big problems. And that's how we can create amazing futures.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Yes.